Hey everybody, I wanted to show you my next process piece for Mermaid. I'm really excited that I have been able to keep going so far, 10 days and still going. For me, this is a big deal because I have a lot of projects going on and a lot of different things going on, and the ability to stay consistent with any kind of one theme is something that I'm not always able to do. Yesterday I was hoping to sit out on our porch, but as you can see, the snow we were getting in mid-May in Colorado was making it too cold for me to sit out on the deck. So a little bit later here, it stopped snowing for a little while. It soon resumed, but the view was spectacular, and I wanted to capture that on video for you. We have really enjoyed our new space, so we have been in our new apartment for about a week now. And these views are endlessly inspiring. I feel so relaxed when I come home from town. We live about 10 miles outside of town, and it's just close enough to give us the convenience of being able to go into town easily, and there's enough space so that we don't have, tons and tons of houses all around us. So I ended up sitting inside on the sofa with my sketch pad on my lap. It's actually a block of watercolor paper. I had already done the pencil sketch, and then the next phase is I take out my Kuretake fountain brush pen. This particular one has natural brush fibers, which, depending on your ethics, probably isn't the most humane if it's natural hair. But I do find that the line that I get is a little bit better, and I wanted to compare this natural hair brush to the synthetic brush that I already have. I pretty much use them interchangeably. I do end up using the carbon black fountain ink and carbon platinum fountain pen ink in cartridges inside these brush pens, and I'm really working on control. I don't always have the best control or consistency. I've become good at covering up mistakes. As you can see here, my line got a little bit wobbly, and so I end up thickening that line and then coming back later and thickening other lines around the drawing. Once I get done with the inking, then I go back after the ink has dried thoroughly, and I will erase my pencil lines. It's only recently that I've begun using graphite for sketching. I was using colored pencils and watercolor pencils before. And now Ronan's out on the porch. I'm checking on the weather again. It's getting cloudy again. He's wondering why I don't just take him for another walk, even though they get walked way too early in the morning, every morning. It's nice that we have the porch where they can look out. And then I moved, so it started to get darker, and I moved up to our little breakfast nook. There is my platinum carbon ink. And I am using a dip pen to do the scales on the mermaid tail. I like to play around with different dip pen nibs. They have different amounts of flexibility. They hold different amounts of ink. They have different line weights. This one allowed me to get a really nice thin line and also carries a decent amount of ink, so I didn't have to re-dip the pen, every couple of scales, but it really let me draw meditatively, because drawing these scales is super meditative. It lets me go on for a while and kind of get into the zone before I have to dip again. And it's something that I have just been playing around with. I find when I do these monthly challenges that my work tends to evolve. When I first started this series for Mermaid, it was a little rough around the edges. I wasn't really sure which media I wanted to stick with and how I wanted to keep them consistent. What I started out with was the bar of gouache in the background, the strip of gouache down the center of the page or across the center of the page, and then the mermaid unicorn in the middle somehow. And then I did initially use dip pen, or maybe I used my Micron. I actually don't remember for the first day, but it's evolved so that I am using my dip pen. And with the last couple, I've even begun using my dip pen with white ink after it's painted to add a couple additional details to the piece. So there I just added a couple thinner lines. And then I took a break last night and came back out in the morning. So I'm walking my dogs. I think it was around 6 in the morning or just before 6 in the morning this morning. There's Stucky, who thought he saw something. We do live next to a ranch, so there are sometimes goats and horses in the field, but I didn't see anything out there this morning. When I got back from walking the dogs, I masked off my strip for the gouache, and I have so many complaints about this gouache. This is Arteza gouache. They have been giving their product away to a bunch of prominent artists on YouTube who've all been reviewing it favorably, and so I bought it thinking if these artists I really respect are reviewing it favorably, then it must be a good product, and I absolutely hate it. Never gonna buy it again. I'm gonna stick to my Schminke gouache and my Holbein gouache and the professional quality gouache, even though this Arteza gouache says that it's premium or professional. It's absolutely not. It's disgusting. It doesn't get smooth and silky and creamy with water. It gets transparent and it stays streaky, and it's just impossible to get that lovely matte finish that you expect with gouache if you've used good gouache in the past. So I'm really disappointed with all the artists who have, probably they were told that in exchange for receiving this product, they were required to leave some sort of favorable review. That was probably part of the agreement somehow, but I wish they were a little more transparent about it. I wish they were a little bit more informative in terms of the actual quality of this stuff and how much it makes a difference when you're using something of this poor quality on your pieces. I'm continuing to use it because I've got it now, and so I'm just going to make the most of it. I think my pieces shine regardless, and the whole exercise of Mermaid is for me to challenge myself and, play around with different techniques and grow a little bit. So the experimentation phase, I'm willing to suck that up for part of the process. So then after the gouache stage, I am getting out my travel watercolor brushes. These are from, I think it's called Tintoretto, these little travel brushes, and then my mini palettes, which Stephanie Law, she's an artist, she designed these gorgeous little palettes you can fill with your own favorite colors and carry it with you, super portable. And for this one, maybe it's because it's been snowing and raining for the last few days and it's supposed to be springtime here in Colorado. Maybe I was just feeling a little bit glum and drowsy and needed this rainbow to wake me up. But I did feel like this was going to be a rainbow mermaid unicorn. And you can see with the gouache that I did end up covering up some of my line work. I always go back at the end with my brush pen and my brush fountain pen and kind of refine those lines again. The reason is because I don't want to have to be super precious and worried, what if something happens? You can see I'm just mixing my watercolors over on another piece of watercolor paper. I'm not even using the mixing palette because I'm not mixing huge quantities of these colors, but I really felt like I needed a rainbow today. So that's what I did this morning, and I just kind of have fun with it. I don't do thumbnails and plan out color schemes and different arrangements and stuff beforehand. The goal of these for me, here you can see me mixing a purple from the blue and the red that I was using to keep that color palette consistent. Just making sure that all of the colors harmonize together and I'm not using wild and crazy shades and tones and values. But yeah, anyway, so the rainbow really felt good to me this morning, and I stopped recording after this piece and kind of finished it in my car, actually, while I was waiting for the art supply store to open this morning, because I wanted to try a new dip pen and I need some new watercolor paper, because I have been commissioned to do another coloring book, 25 pet illustrations for an animal shelter, and so I needed more paper. But you will see the final piece here in just a second, and I hope this was informative and entertaining. And there's the final piece.